everyone. Welcome back to another episode in this series, Conversations with Shelly. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, I am Shelly Ann. And for those of you who have been here for a couple episodes now, welcome back. So, I promised you in my recent teaser another provocative topic, and I'm here to deliver on that promise. Now, certainly, I know we would have broached what the topic is, and by way of reminder, I'll just let you know that today we're discussing being unapologetically you. What does it mean, right? So, I know there may have been times in your past where you've thought, I don't have to apologize for who I am. I am Shelly, or I am Mark, or I'm just who I am, and you just have to deal with it, right? And that may very well be so, depending on how you understand, appreciate, and define what being unapologetically you means. And this is the episode that we will be talking about that and allowing you to understand when you need to be unapologetically you, right? So let's start. Let's kick it off. So there are some persons within our lives, within our space, within our general everyday commute that don't want clarity from us. And what they want is actual control. And the moment that you stop explaining yourself to them, they don't get confused, right? The moment you stop explaining who you are, suddenly there's clarity for them. There's no longer any discomfort. Well, today we're talking about something that is going to make a lot of persons uncomfortable. And certainly, or more specifically, the persons in your lives that benefit from your silence or your lack of confidence therein when it comes to having to not explain yourself or understanding that you can be who you are without having to explain yourself to anyone. But before I do that, let me just define for you what being unapologetically you means, right? It's not about being abrasive or disrespectful or dismissive or just being brash or blunt. It's not about those things, those negative personality traits. So let us get that out the way from the jump. Being unapologetically you means living and speaking with clarity and confidence and choosing from a place of self knowledge and self respect without ever having to shrink into who you are or ever having to over explain or seek permission before you go ahead and do or say something. As I said, it's not about being rude, it's not about being loud, it's about being clear and grounded, and in many cases, being truthful and honest. So, at the core of being unapologetically you, you should always remember that your choices are what should align in order to make it make sense, right? You're not explaining things away to persons who are going to benefit from your silence. So, that out the way, let us talk about the difference between silence, as it is understood with strength, versus self silencing, which helps and keep those who benefit from you having to explain yourself. So let's be clear. When you're silent, you're standing in a place of empowerment. You're sitting in the moment in order to get clarity and in order to ensure that you yourself understand and be able to drown the noise of the market out. It is a position of empowerment versus self silencing, which is what is harmful. Now, self silencing happens when there are other persons who are causing you to shrink. And this is where the harm derives, right? And this usually happens when you're not allowed to speak up and you do so in many instances to avoid conflict. And instead of explaining yourself with a level of assertion, you have to minimize yourself and keep yourself in a shrink position in order to keep the peace. Now, these are some of the things that must be looked at in order to stand in that place of being unapologetically you. Your silence isn't about humility now. It's about you being able to survive. It's a survival mode that you're going into. So, having explained the difference between self silencing and silence, let us unpack who benefits from your silence, right? So, the people in your lives, in your space, in your everyday commute who benefit from your silence are those who are used to having access to you without any form of accountability. Those who can just not appreciate the boundaries and the filters that you put up. Yeah. And they expect some amount of compliance automatically without conversations, without asking you. They just want you to comply because it makes them comfortable. Now, at this point in time, this is where you now have to dig into that, toolkit that you have and say, hey, this is a moment that I have to now apologize for who I am because you're just asking for me to comply and to follow along and to just walk within your footsteps. The persons who you will see who will benefit also are the persons within your space who will feel threatened when you offer clarity as to what it is that you're about or who it is that you're about. Yeah. And those are the persons, again, that will let you question your self silence moment. Yeah. So you need to find a place where you are no longer influenced by these persons. And you can now understand that in your growth of appreciating how you need to turn up into spaces and places unapologetically you, is when you're able to disrupt their comfort level. And once you're able to disrupt that comfort level, you will see now how much you're truly standing in that unapologetic me realm, right? Now, let us look at outside of the persons who benefit from your silence or them self silencing you. Let us look at all the things, explaining yourself and how it keeps them comfortable and understanding when they now are able to appreciate you for who they want you to be and not necessarily who you are, right? So when you explain yourself, that is something that keeps them comfortable because they are now in a position of power to say, okay, you are doing this and I'm asking you why. And having asked you why, you know have to offer that explanation, right? And that makes them comfortable. You releasing or relinquishing your boundaries or your filters, again, is another thing that keeps these persons who benefit from your silence comfortable. Once they start to invite you into a negotiating position, oh, I'm going to do this if you do that, that's another realm where they are again creating a space of comfort for themselves while you are left in this weird space trying to figure out where's my confidence? Who am I? How do I now change this narrative to ensure that it suits and benefit me in a positive way? They raise within you this signal of doubt and you start to question yourself. Am I who I am? Can I really approach this with a level of um, integrity, confidence, and bravado that I need to in a space of humility? Or am I handing over my authority to them by explaining things away? No. This should always allow you to be able to separate those persons that mean you well from those who do not. And one of the things that you must always remember in identifying these persons is the more you explain, is the more they feel entitled to your explanation. Now, if you're operating and you realize that, okay, you're saying, I'm going to do this, and they are saying why, and then you may lose sight of it and you may offer that explanation, and then they say, so why are you doing that? They're drawing you into having to explain more. often allowing you to feel like they're entitled to what it is that you are about to do. Now remember, once you are being a non-abrasive, non-dismissive person, then you can rest assured that what you're doing is the right thing. But there's a cost to all of this. There's a cost to all of this, whether you decide to remain in a position of self-silencing versus in a position of you just sitting in the silence of who you are and understanding and appreciating that position. There is a cost. And this cost is usually an emotional cost. Now, let us explore what that may look and feel like. So, when you're constantly having to explain yourself in order to be able to now define who you are in a positive way, you will experience emotional exhaustion. You're tired because the truth about it is that you're doing too much. Yeah. It will also come at an emotional cost of resentment, where you find that you're resenting all the person that you have to be explaining things to. Then there's also the cost of self-doubt. Oh my God, am I really a strong person? Am I really somebody with integrity? And these are some of the things that you start to play in your mind when you evaluate and audit the emotional cost of not understanding who you are unapologetically. Then you start to feel unseen because, of course, they're all of your power, all of your strength, they're taking away from you bit by bit. Yeah. And you start to question, what is wrong with me? Why is things being so difficult? Should I just let go, give in, give up? And these are some of the things that you start to ask yourself. And it is in my mind unreasonable for us to reach at a place in our lives where whatever and whoever we are, once it is not destructive, that we have to be explaining it away, that will eventually take an emotional cost and burden that at some point in time, when you reach the end of the year and you're auditing the cost to you, you realize that you've paid too much. So, what changes when you find that you stop having to explain yourself and you're standing in that unapologetic position? Let us explore some of the things that will change. So, when you stop explaining yourself away to people and to persons who are self benefiting from shrinking you, all your weak relationships, they get exposed. The manipulation that people have over you, they lose its power. The power is lost. And respect becomes visible. And you see, whatever anxiety that you used to feel, it's replaced by peace. So you're moving from a place of, I hope this makes sense, to a place of, this is now my decision because I know who I am. And who I am is not destructive to anyone. So the right people in your lives will start to adjust to who you are. Yeah? And guess what the wrong people will do? They will resist. They will resist because it's a natural thing for them to do when discomfort sets in. Now, I'm sure you want the tool to assist you in talking about how to stop explaining yourself to people. Now, this is something that I battled with in trying to put this presentation together, just for us to have an understanding of what it means when I tell you I'm unapologetically who I am. So, firstly, you need to be very clear. You need to be very clear in what it is that you're communicating, what it is that you are, what it is that you're about, and you do so in a way that closes all conversations henceforth. So you will use language like, that doesn't work for me. Yeah? I've made my decision. Or you may say, hey, I'm not available for that. And then you leave it there and you stop talking. Because what that automatically does is allow persons to understand that they no longer can manipulate or control the scenario or the narrative. All right? So it also alleviates the discomfort that you will feel, and it allows them to sit within their own. And you're not responsible thereafter for any disappointment. And I hope in doing so you do not feel guilt. It's their battle to win, not yours. Always pay attention to the reaction that you get when you start to make these little steps. Pay attention to who respect your boundaries when you say that don't work for me. No. When you say that doesn't work for me, you don't need to explain anything, because once you're operating within that space of humility and within that space of understanding, that in and of itself should be sufficient. So, in closing, I encourage you, stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from your being silent. Your clarity is enough. And if it is not enough, then what it will do, it will threaten the systems that build on you being compliant. Being unapologetically you, again, is not never about being loud. It's not about being clear. It's not about being cruel. It's about being clear, right? So, as always, if what I have said resonated with you, if it dropped within your spirit and within your souls, I always ask you to consider liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. I love to see the comments. And as always, I'll see you on my next one. And again, feel free to share. All right, take care until we see each other again on Conversations with Shelly. Take care. Bye bye.